Alright, today's video is changing my thermostat housing on an 08 Mini Cooper or any other generation. This generation of Mini Cooper with the dual overhead cam, non-turbo, non-supercharged. So it's naturally aspirated engine. And the reason why, I'll show you once I take all this stuff off, but I'm leaking somewhere, I can't tell where, but somewhere out of this thermostat housing. From what the top, when I take the intake off, I could see crust and stuff like that forming somewhere here, but I don't know if it's coming from where it's pressed together right there or something else, and it's just falling off. But it's a very tight area, so I can't pinpoint where the leak is coming from, but I do know it is because over time my coolant comes down, and you can see the coolant in there, which I'll show you in a bit, and you can see a small puddle of coolant on the ground. It used to be very minor, but the last few days, for some reason, it would like literally piss, and you see a puddle within like 10 minutes after parking, and you would have to top it off just a one trip. So I ended up buying a part. This is a stamp company stamp model. I didn't go OEM. I'm hoping I don't have to replace this again, but hopefully the warranty takes care of that. But we're going to go ahead and try that out, and let's get you set up and we'll start disassembling this engine. First thing we're going to do, we're going to drain the coolant. I'm going to use this crossover hose, and we're going to disconnect that clamp, take off the hose, and let it drain from here into a bucket. Alright, I'm going to grab under here with some needle nose. Alright, now with the clamp off, we're gonna grab the top here, twist this tube down and off. Be careful, it's gonna make a mess, so make sure you have a catch pan and a bucket. I'm gonna place you up here so I don't get my equipment wet and I have room to work. And you can see why I said get a drip pan and a bucket, because bucket caught the majority of it, but this drip pan saved all this fluid from getting spilt on the floor. So it's very nice to have. And I did want to show you the coolant that gets burnt off and dripped down to the floor. You can see the path that it ends up at. So this you see right here is the coolant that ended up dripping over time, but it pretty much just falls all the way down here. I don't know how far you can see. There's your starter, but it comes from all the way up there, which is where the thermostat housing is. Now we're going to take off this air box that goes into the air filter. It's a 10mm bolt. Pull this off. Just gotta squeeze up this little clamp. It pulls right out from the air intake up here. I gotta twist it out of the air box. And once you twist it out, there you go. You can see where it kind of sits in its groove. Right there too. And now we're gonna take this tube off. It has these two ramps or lips on top and bottom. You just kind of got to squeeze left side down, right side down, and then finagle this, and it'll pop off. Now you got this whole area. Now we want to move this top area with these two cam sensors and this vacuum tube, because we got to move this little harness up a little bit, and you can see the thermostat housing under. We're going to go ahead and take off one of the plugs on the thermostat housing. With the tiny flathead, we're going to get behind it and help push it off. There you go. And what you're doing is with the flathead, you're getting behind it and you're lifting this up and also pushing it off. Now we're going to take off the sensor that goes to the top of the thermostat housing, same as the other ones. Pry out on the retainer clip and then pull out. And just to move the harness out of the way, I'm gonna get behind this one. And all this moves out the way. I wanted to show you what I meant with where the coolant just pouring down in there and just sitting and getting hot from the transmission and engine, and it just bubbles up right there. But because you can see it's still pretty down in there, I don't know where it's coming from, but I'll figure it out once we take it off. Now we got everything around it disconnected. Now we can start messing with these hoses. And this is how it sits inside the engine. So we got this big tube on this side that goes into the water pump, and then all these auxiliary hoses. So you can see how they're going to be oriented, and you can find which ones you're going to need to work on. There's two right there on the back side of the engine, two large ones on the front side of the engine, and one small one on the bottom. So that's 5 total hoses plus the connection itself. And then you got 3 mounting bolts, one right there, one up there, and one right there. And then you got the whole assembly off. Alright, now we're going to start taking out these hoses. We're going to take off the hose. You want to twist it to break any connection that it has, and then slowly walk it out and try to catch all this fluid. I'm going to put it on top right now so it doesn't just drip down, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other one. And that's good. Alright, I'm going to get this clamp right here next to the sensor. Pull that down. Same thing with the one right next to it. And once you get the clamps off, pull them back so you don't snap on you. And pull off the hoses. This is the one that we need to take off last. It's a small one that goes on the left side of the two that you took off earlier. I'm gonna do it off camera so I don't have to try to find an angle, and I have space in it because it's pretty tight in there. But just so you can see it, there it is. Now that we got all the hoses off, we're gonna hit those 3 mount bolts, and they're 10mm. Okay, got 3 bolts. Now we got to get there's a retaining clip that sits right in this groove. It's a little triangle clip that you just got to pull it straight out and it'll come off. Alright, got the clip out after a lot of trying to get it with screwdrivers and stuff like that. And I don't know why I didn't do this in the first place, but some long needle nose. I don't know if they need to be 45 degrees, but mine are. And then you just grab it with my right hand like that, and then with my left hand just pulled it up, and it was able to come off. Before that I spent like 30 minutes trying to do it with screwdrivers and just kind of flick off one side. Well, that didn't work, and the needle nose took about 15 seconds and I got it. And now I can take off this whole assembly. There you go, here's the old one. You can see where it's leaking out of somewhere. Not sure where. Maybe that temp sensor. You can see it's kind of cracked open right there where the plastic. Maybe it expanded too much. There's the bottom side of it. And yeah, And then we got a new one right over there. And now you're gonna want to blow all that out with air, or if you want to just get like a water hose or something, or a bucket of water, and just pour that down there to clean off all that coolant that's just been puddled up there for so long. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and clean off the surface that's gonna mount up right there. I'm gonna slowly maneuver the new one in. Okay, now we got it sitting to where more or less it's gonna be. We got to push it into that water pipe that sits right over there. The one that I spent a lot of time messing with right now. Now, after spending 99% of the time of this project on just that stupid clip, I finally got it in. Yes, I wasted a lot more time than what it should have been, just because it's so hard to try to place it back in the hold in the water, or I'm sorry, the thermostat housing. Now with that in, I'm just gonna go ahead and torque down the bolts, which is not much. If I can find the torque, I'll give it to you. But yeah, that's gonna probably be your hardest part, is that retainer clip to pull it off, to pull the water pump off, or I'm sorry, the thermostat housing off, and then put it in. But I got it, so now I'm gonna go ahead and put the mounting bolts in. Alright, now with all those mounted, I'm going to put the tubes back on. Okay, now we're going to start putting our sensors back on. Got one of the sensors that goes to the thermostat housing. Our third sensor over here. This cam sensor up here. First, we're going to put our cooling. This is our other cooling sensor that's on the thermostat housing. Put that back in. Vacuum tube, clip that on. I believe that's everything. Put the intake back on, topped out the fluid, running it on high heat, like max heat in the car, so the heater core gets fluid. I'm looking under, making sure there's not leaking anything, and looking at all the connections, making sure it's not leaking out of any of the hose connections. And that is how you change the thermostat housing on a 08 Mini Cooper, or this R56 generations. All right, y'all have a good one.